This video series is for youth with disabilities and their families who are planning for life after leaving high school. In this video, we discuss high school graduation and transition services available for students with special education programs in school settings. Graduating from high school. Students need a high school diploma or GED if they plan to attend college or want better job opportunities. Understanding high school graduation requirements is very important for your future planning. These requirements are in place when a student enters the 9th grade and remains in place even if graduation requirements change later. Additionally, individual school districts may have other requirements. Because graduation requirements can change, speak with your school counselor to stay up to date. Graduation for students receiving special education services. If a student attends public school and participates in a special education program, students can receive public school services for free until a reevaluation determines the student no longer needs special education, the student graduates from high school, the student turns 21, or in writing, the student or parent revokes consent for special education and related services. At the IEP meeting, students and families should discuss graduation options and a need for a transition program. Remember, once the student graduates with a diploma, they lose eligibility for special education services or transition programs from the school district. The IEP team should ensure a student receives all necessary services before graduating. If a student with an IEP plans to participate in a transition program after 4 years of high school, the student will not get their high school diploma during the senior year. However, under Kevin's law, a student with a disability can still request to participate with their senior class graduation ceremony. Transition services for students receiving special education services. Generally, a transition program is designed for students ages 18 to 21 who continue to receive special education services from a public school district. In accordance with a student's IEP, a transition program provides experiences that prepare students for employment, college, and gaining independent living skills. A student who is eligible for special education services has an individualized education program and an IEP team. An IEP team must include the students, parents or guardians, special education teachers, school district personnel, related service providers, and general education teachers. An IEP team may also include adult service providers if needed. Students and parents or guardians have a right to an interpreter if they speak different languages or use American Sign Language. Under the IDEA, students with special education services and their IEP team need to start planning for the student's transition services by the time the student turns 16. Transition services are planned out following steps according to the IDEA law, and the IEP team should make sure that the student's transition IEP is updated every year. When an IEP team develops and revises a transition IEP, the team should follow transition services process outlined in this flowchart. The student's transition plans and services should reflect a student's future goals and support needs. Good transition plans start with age-appropriate assessment, which is a process to collect information about students' interests, strengths, preferences, and support needs. Assessment is most valuable when information comes from the student and their family. For example, Jean's IEP team conducted informal interviews with Jean and her mother to identify Jean's interests, strengths, preferences, and support needs. Special education teachers and other IEP team members contributed by conducting assessments on Jean's work at school and in communities. A person-centered planning can be a tool for an age-appropriate assessment. Measurable post-secondary goals are different from annual IEP goals and reflect a student's plan for life after high school. In a transition IEP, the IEP team will write a student's goals for post-secondary education and training, employment, and independent living skills as appropriate. These goals do not limit to the first year after graduation. Good, measurable post-secondary goals should be clear and specific. For example, Mickle's measurable post-secondary goals clearly state what Mickle will do and where Mickle will be upon his graduation. In this slide, we provide useful questions for parents to ask. Based on post-secondary goals, an IEP team will suggest transition services. Transition services may include instruction, related services, community experiences, and independent living skills. These services should support a student's post-secondary goals. Here is an example of transition services for Mikkel. These transition services support Mikkel to achieve his post-secondary goals with his employment. A course of study differs from student to student. It describes the types of classes a student plans to take in special education and/or general education. In this example, we see a combination of general education and special education classes. In this example, we see a course of study with specially designed instructions related to transition services and an alternate curriculum. Annual IEP goals are short-term yearly goals. Once transition services start, annual IEP goals should support a student's post-secondary goals. Specific courses are planned from the current year to the anticipated graduation year. An annual IEP goals intends to show progress over time. For example, in the first year of his transition program, teachers supported Mikkel in his work skills development. Every year, Mikkel practiced different work tasks until he could perform them accurately and independently. By the time Mikkel graduated from his transition program, Mikkel demonstrated all work skills independently and confidently. Lastly, the IEP team should consider the necessity for appropriate adult services to help students meet their post-secondary goals. Unlike school services, many adult services are eligibility-based, which means students need to apply and qualify for services in advance of receiving them. To make decisions about necessary adult services, students will need information from their age-appropriate assessment, post-secondary goals, transition services, the course of study, and their annual IEP goals. It's important to start learning about adult services early, as application processes are different for each agency and require time and advanced planning. Students and families should learn about different adult agencies and how to connect with them. Again, application processes are different for each agency and require time and advanced planning. In order to receive services without delay, it is important for students and families to plan ahead. It's a good idea to visit adult agencies or invite representatives to an IEP meeting. During the student's transition, connecting to adult agency support can help students fulfill their post-secondary goals. To find contact information for agencies in your county, visit the Center for Change in Transition Services website. Here are community-based resources families can access to learn more about the school-based transition services.